Good morning, team. Welcome to the stream. Today is Tuesday, October 31st. As always, and for those who are new, if you have any questions, please go ahead and post those in chat. We are moving platforms. I'll probably shoot another video today and upload that to the new site, kind of a welcome video and overview. And then if you have any questions for the time being, go ahead and still message me in chat for today. As you get into the new group, there's a messaging system as well, and you can DM me there. So we'll transition today and tomorrow, and we'll be live from the group on Thursday. Let me get into the private client fund. We'll take a look. I was just looking at some of the other energy names yesterday. I think we can sell some calls on this AEM. I was looking out to January. The 50s are around 200 at a 42 delta closing yesterday. I'd like to get a little bit of a spike, hopefully back up into that upper band into 48. We'll see if we can get to 48.50s. We might just continue to the downsides. I'll probably sell a few of these right off the bat and then see where we get to. Anything else on gainers or losers today? Looks like CAT, pretty good crush for our short calls through earnings. Nice spike, almost back to our alert level, which was 257s. It got to 253s on the earnings news and then broke that 245s, sold off to 228s, team. Pretty good crush there. We'll take some profit out of that at the open. Very similar to, let's see how DE does with that as well. In tandem. Yeah, getting a little bit of a hit in sympathy. So we built into this one over the 390 to 395 area. We saw that breakdown of 385s with continuation through 365s. There was a little bit of chop over the past few days, but I think we'll continue giving up that zone and potentially get into 345s over time. This is, 345s is low of year. And you can see that kind of over under pivot channel that we mapped out. It's just really respected that. There was a little bit of a bounce back over the highs, but as it rejected and failed, we've just been sliding down the lower band and getting some sympathy from the sector as well, right? Crisp on a halt for news. I still have some finals on this. Yeah, if we get a fast spike again, I missed that one into 45s. See if we get something else on that this week. I've got plenty of room. I could build some more size on this, but it's been a pretty much long, slow fade from 65s, 55s, 45s, and still seeing some continuation, right? As far as seasonality wise, if they're able to rip this on some news, there's potential to hold the lows for November and bounce through December. What else we got? Chewy and Lyft. Chewy back to our alert. Gapping up into it over 19. So this is a zone that I'm looking at for potential to reload and sell into 20 or better calls. Pretty extended downside from 35s all the way almost into 15s. Getting a little bit of a bounce here. I think, we'll watch this today. It's been pretty juiced over the last 3 days. If they get a little bit of a chase today and then it starts to go sideways, we got some room and some time for a lot of sideways call premium decay through the next month. So getting that little bit of a bounce, and we'll see how we get towards the end of the day. I'll probably start selling some more calls there. Let's see. I'll take some more profit out of CELH today as well. It's about 13% on swing short equity, and it's still chopping sideways. I still have the alert back for a 180 retest. We might get a faster one, but I don't think at this point it goes all the way. Anything back over 165s to 170s, I would like to add some more. Typically should be flat for the rest of the year, a little bit of a kind of sideways hold into the close. And like we talked about previously, I don't think we reclaim that 185. You can still look at selling anything outside of that range, 185s to 215s, and should be still some good premium crush through the end of the year. Let's see what our top gaining positions are on the day. It's like ENPH, Solar still leading a lot of the pack. Yesterday, it was 4 out of the 5 positions in the morning. So just crushed, right? We continued building in 145s and 135s on the short calls and short equity. Left that alert out for 149, which was not retested. There was a double top bounce into 125s. We sold off to the lows, gap down again. And that's almost 50 points, right? So inside of 2.5 weeks, pretty dramatic sell-off and good continued crush for us across the board. ENPH the same time as SEDG, right? Very similar as well. We built into 185s. There was no retest of 181s. Then we built in through 145s, 135s. There was no retest of 135s. Gap down into 80s and continued sell off yesterday, kind of closing flat at the lows. Really good crush on premium. As we gap down, I was already taking the profit on this first pull. We bounced back over 80s and I sold some more SEDG along with FSLR, and there's one other. It'll come to me. Not SMCI, even though that's doing really well. Yeah, now I'm getting all these other tickers invading my mind. So Ford is pushing the same equity position also. But as far as the solar, I think there's still room and time. You can watch for faster spikes or bounces back up to the highs. But overall, I'll be building in some more FSLR on continuation. I'll probably add back to some SEDG as well. The equity is again through 13%. And that's the second time that we've had it through that range, progressively exiting, averaging in the core, and then getting the new range again. We also had a pretty good crush on GameStop yesterday. This is 13% again on equity. We had the bounces back over 15s, or sorry, 14s where we added at the last part, but the real adds were through 1750. You can see that sideways chop and potential we talked about through earnings and getting that breakdown. As it really failed, I continued selling the calls at every dollar on the strikes and taking profit out of those along with the equity. At this point, you can still look at selling $12.50 to $15 calls. We've talked many times about this being a zero along with AMC. For those who are new, I'd go a little bit farther out and higher up. So 15 to 1750 calls into January or February, risking some bounces. You still got room and time on those to build in some key positions. And then the car sector still doing pretty well for us also. So CBNA getting back into 12% again. This is like the 5th time, right? So triple top into 55s for September. And we built in pretty heavy. We were getting some really good exits through 45s and 40s. We continued building in on that sideways action, just over 40s, looking for that breakdown. The last alert that we left out was 43.60, which was never retested. And you can see as the 40s broke down, we've just seen continued slow choppy fade through 35s, right? And that's basically what we were looking for from the highs, is for that fail of 34.85s and continuation after that. At this point, there's still room to bounce. We do have earnings coming up on November 2nd. So I'm going to continue taking premium out for the next week or so, and we'll probably reload after earnings, see if they can push that higher for us. DocU and the clouds, 22% on swing short equity, 49.71 average. So again, we saw that spike over 50s. We were selling in the money calls at the 50 to 55 level, looking for that breakdown. As we started to get it, I was also selling the 47.50 calls. The lowest alert that I left out was 49s for a retest, which never happened. Failed 45s. We got some sideways through 42.50s where I was taking profit and adding some additional short calls. And yeah, just let the equity continue to work. So 22% there. I'm going to cover some more and we'll risk bounces back into 4250s, I guess. EH, is that EHang? Yeah, this one got crushed yesterday. We are 26% on equity. So a pretty good fast spike into 2250s. After the 25 rejection, we rebuilt into this. And I ended up, after first exits, we got that fail of 20s and we were adding back through 1750s. By covering that and adding back into the core, I ended up with an 18-19 average. That's 26% today. We're down 5 points and continuing to slow fade, right? So typically we would see a sideways hold into the end of the year and a little bit of a bounce, but I'm not quite sure we've reached the lows yet. Our low side target was single digits, so we still got some room to get there. I am going to leave an alert just about 1750s. It should probably be 15s. Let's leave it there to start and see if it fires. But yeah, continuing to take profit, and I'll lock some more today, 26% on swing short equity. Got a pretty good position on GM along with Ford. So Ford into the double digits, GM just barely 7% on the reloads and averaged in after the last fail, right? So we built into this over 40s. We progressively taken profit out of it all fall. We saw a lot of that sideways action at 3250 mark. As that broke down, we were into 30s where I was continuing to sell. Left the alert out for a retest of 3250s, which did not happen. We got an extra 250 to the downside and continuing beyond that, right? So pushing 5 figures just on the equity core, and we have a mix of swing short calls in tandem with Ford and the other EVs, also Hog, which I will continue building into. Let's see. Yeah, this one's looking pretty good too. So we got that first pretty large crack, and then we got some gap down continuation, right? So very similar timing on the sideways hold with, I wasn't in it yet at this position, but we had talked about it previously. As it failed 30s, started to scalp through that. Also sold you can see these couple of bounces over 30, sold the 25 calls while they were still in the money, along with 27s. And I have some 38s all the way out till May from that, before that breakdown. Some of the 25s I started after we got that fail into 2750. So they're only 12, 13, 14, 17, 21, 38% profit. So I'll take a first exit on the 35%, and I really don't think we're going to get a bounce on this, but I'll leave an alert out just in case. Probably short some more equity, and I think I've got enough of the short calls in play. Hertz, along with the cars, 27%. I have not averaged back into this one again. I've just let it continue to fade from 15s, right? We saw that breakdown of 15s where we were already swing short. I did add a little bit as we got into 1250s and 12s, covering some of that out. Actually, I think I added a little bit more over 11s as well on that bounce. Ended up with a 1201 average, 27% on swing short equity. I think we'll still see some choppy action and potentially a fade into the low of year. And we are below previous year lows, so there's room for a bounce, but pretty destroyed over the year. Saw that initial ramp into 20s, the fail into 15s, a bounce attempt, but as it really finally failed 15s, you can see the follow through on that as well. All right, pretty low risk at the time and really good continuation. Got Match along with Bumble. I did Bumble yesterday. Match is 11% on equity, 38.19 average. So we did start building in over 45s. We had a lot of expired call premium that broke down through 40s as we were taking profit and averaging back in on that bounce. Over 38s, ended up with that average. We got another 4 points out of it, pushing 11% on equity. I think at this point, I'll ride it through earnings and look to write some calls. Yeah, hopefully we get a bounce back. I wouldn't mind that even with the equity in play. I might sell some before the end of the day, going out to like January and March, probably, and selling over the 40 to 45 mark in case we get a faster spike. NEO, 21% on equity. Continuation swing short. Obviously, we saw that bounce over eights and added a little bit, but not very much. And then we've just seen that continued breakdown back to the low level from a week ago. And I think we'll fail that as well. We talked from 15s about this being a single digit ticker again in tandem with LI and the other EVs like Rivian. And we've just seen that continued slow fade, right, over the last 3 months. Pretty painful for long-term holders, but super low risk for us. Overstock CFDs at 36% on the swing short. Plug, another one that we haven't recapped. Very similar to NEO and the battery makers, right? So there was no retest of 15s. We talked about shorting that over the 1250 mark as it got the breakdown through 10s, added into it as well, and continued through lows into 750 where I averaged back in again. Sorry, 650 where I averaged back in again, and that's my 14% equity profit on continuation, which has been good. All right, team, in keeping with our stated goals for the rest of the year, getting out a little bit of the individual tickers with as much volatility and transitioning a little more to some of the indexes. I posted some of those trades for you yesterday as well. Let's just take a look at the market real quick. We've got analysts coming in with their year-end revisions. After calling for 4,900 as a high, revising into 44 or 43, and still out of range, right? So, but from our marks, we've seen that retest of our zero level on the fibs at 412s. Talked about that in chat with John. Got a little bit of a hold over the past couple of days. We are trying to gap up, but I think we're going to need to see some more strength out of the previous leaders, Tesla, NVIDIA, Amazon. See if we can get some follow through, maybe even Microsoft. But in times like this, we're seeing a little bit more bullish activity out of gold, Bitcoin, and VIX. I am still swing short VIX and VXX. Got some more profit out of this yesterday. Basically, as we've talked about, every time over 25 to 26, we've kept adding. Got those retests into 27 last week on Friday. These were beautiful ads, right? So we had a fast spike on Friday as the market was selling off, sold a lot of VXX. And we got the gap down yesterday, continued sell off below our target level, and then another gap down this morning, right? Back under 25s. I think as long as we hold sideways and better on SPY for a little bit, this will continue to decay. I'm going to be progressively taking profit out of the premium and the equity. And I think you can still look at selling some equity on VIX on any bounces as well, probably over 20s to 22s. And we should be pretty much flat for the end of the year, right? So a good time to crush some premium, get that decay, and see how we close out. I'm going to journal a miss on Amgen. I looked at it a few times and just never took the entry. I think there's still room and time, but we saw that fast spike and a bit of a chase into the high band over 285s. And you can see as that's rejected and failed, 275s broke down, 265s on earnings. And I think I'll check this within about an hour after the open, see if we get any type of bounce. At this point, you can look at selling 265 to 285 calls. I'm probably going to go into January for a bit more premium. The 49 delta is the 260s. The 27 delta is the 280s. And the 290s are at an 18 delta. If you're new and it's new for the system and it's something you want to try out, I would stay under the 20 delta or better. The higher and farther you go out, the less it's going to go against you on any bounces. But I think we'll see some continued premium crush on that. Looks like it was basically high of year, then most likely closing flat. So there's still room to bounce back into that 285 area. We could see a double top that then kind of closes flat, or we could pull lower and make a bounce attempt to recover. A lot more AMD, NVIDIA, SMCI. So I'll be taking some more profit out of all of these today. Just continued fade on call crushes. So AMD, we still have the November 100s, 77%, January 105s, 63%, January 115s, 64%, February 110s, 52%, March 105s, 46%, April 100s, 40%, June 105s, 38%, and June 110s, 45%. So a lot of them getting into that 50, 60, 70% range. And my equity is 6.4% here. I'll risk any bounces. I'll probably look at selling some 95 calls as I take these exits. And I think, yeah, at this point, I think it's less likely we get a retest on the year. We kind of reached that high early. We're not really seeing a second high, which might happen in November, but I think this year is a little less likely. We're starting to see some year-end divergence as well, right? And just recognizing the tickers that we're familiar with and the potential that they have or don't have gives us some conviction on the short premium. That's AMD. Let's see how NVIDIA got. Yeah, we're still closing the lows. Still haven't seen a retest of the 425s. And still not really touching the lower band either. So a lot of sideways action, kind of choppy over under VWAP, but has been really good to us since the earnings high and the shorts that we initiated there, along with the bounce back into the upper band over 465s. Now we're still chopping around 400s, right? Pretty good premiums, a lot of call decay, and really good follow through. All right, team, I'm going to wrap up on this. Message me if you need anything else throughout the day. I will be back in about an hour and I will be working in the members area. If you have any questions there or anything that you want to see, we'll continue progressively locking profit, and I will post in the new group today. Please make sure that you have DM'd me with your email address so we can get those invites out, and looking forward to continuing on through the end of the year. It's been a great year so far, and we are going to wrap up strong. Thanks so much, team. Trade safe as always. Have an amazing day.